2025 has been an extremely tough year for activists in the video game industry. They're going through layoffs, project cancellations, and of course, more gamers than ever do not take them seriously. And Kotaku decided to put up their big 10 disappointments of 2025, and they look like a joke. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, you can see right at the very top, they have some tags on this article. AI, biggest disappointments, Kotaku 2025, surprised they got this far, layoffs, mind's eye, tariffs, and Trump. So you already know what they're going to be complaining about. You already know what they are extremely upset over, and it's really no surprise. These are things that they have been complaining about for a very long time because these people will sit here and find issues in literally everything, and they're so detached from the audience they need reading their articles that they're not actually talking about big problems that have to do with the video game industry that we see. Sure, something like AI can definitely count. Project cancellations, there are some that people are really upset by, like Perfect Dark. There's a lot of people who were very sad that we didn't see more of that's not actually going to release, but they're still not talking about things like the Western video game industry not delivering on their promises, not delivering high quality AAA experiences, companies constantly nickel and diming. It's like they are not sitting here and actually talking about anything that could be bettered in the industry, but it says, I'd hoped 2025 would be a better year than 24, and in some personal ways it was, but it was almost yet another year filled with layoffs, AI, slop, greedy execs, price increases, and more signs that the entire games industry is collapsing. Hey, maybe if you guys did your job better, maybe if you agreed with gamers, your outlets would not be going under, and if you had called out these companies years ago instead of taking hush money from them and taking shill money from them, then things could be going way better for everybody. So, like we've done in years past, Kotaku has rounded up a collection of some of the worst, most disappointing video game news and events from 2025 and cataloged it. They talk about number one, so many canceled games. Perfect Dark, the slick-looking reboot of Rare sci-fi shooter series, canned, and the studio behind it shuttered. A Wonder Woman game from Monolith canceled, taking the beloved studio behind No One Lives Forever and Shadow of Mordor down with it. They bring up Black Panther, Titanfall extraction shooter spin-offs, a God of War multiplayer project, a cool-looking Transformers title, and yes, this is all unfortunate, but at the same time, they are not calling out the root of the problem, which is AAA companies under-delivering. They have hundreds of millions of dollars that they're putting towards each individual project. They could hire industry veterans. They could hire people who are talented, but instead, they are not. And we constantly are getting AAA games that do under-deliver, that do disappoint. And so, sure, all of these sound like cool ideas, but would they be executed properly? Most likely not. I personally don't get excited for games that are announced when they're years and years and years away anymore, like Perfect Dark. We found out that that was basically a trailer that was made up of gameplay they created specifically to show off. It wasn't actually just a part of the game that they thought looked cool. It was a box that existed in the void that they filled with things to only highlight in this to judge reactions, and that is also a major problem in the games industry, that they are not creating games because developers are talented and passionate. They're creating sections of games and they are pumping them out just to gauge reaction, so it could take even longer for games to get greenlit because they're going to throw out, let's say, 10 trailers and see which one sticks the landing and then cancel the others, which I suppose is technically a smart business strategy because then you're not putting money into a game nobody wants like Concord. But at the same time, the passion level has to be at an all-time low within these studios for the people who actually know what they're doing. And of course, it says layoffs. More layoffs in studio changes. 2025 wasn't as bad for the industry layoffs as 24, but it was still pretty terrible. Nearly 10,000 developers lost jobs, according to Amir Satva. That's down from the over 15,000 pink slips peak of 2025, but still up from 2022. They even talk about Square Enix making cuts, Amazon Gaming, but also they had to call out the end of the Hyper Light Breaker Early Access, which this was a Sweet Baby Inc. game. Are they going to talk about Sweet Baby Inc. and how much damage they've done to these games? And are they going to get into detail about why there's layoffs going on? No, they don't want to admit the problems because they are constantly promoting these narratives. Generative AI slop spreads through the games industry, which I think is so funny that they word it this way, that, oh my gosh, there's Gen AI slop. That's not the case. The interviews that they are referring to are from people like the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 director and the Baldur's Gate 3 Larian Studio CEO. None of the games they talk about here are AI slop. We're talking about Baldur's Gate 3, which I personally don't like. I prefer Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Baldur's Gate 3 just had like a modern D&D feel to it. Regardless, though, I would not call that low-quality slop. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I had problems with some story decisions. Would I call that low-effort AI slop? No. I wouldn't with Arc Raiders either. I would, though, with games like Black Ops 7, because there was a lot of AI usage. But at the same time, the major games that they want you to pay attention to here are not that. So, of course, they are just pushing this opinion that, oh, AI's bad in games, when really we haven't seen even a game with 50% AI be promoted. We haven't seen anything like that. Using AI as a tool is something that I am certain almost every single studio has done. Look at Sandfall Interactive. They said in 2022, when AI started to get big, we tested it, we didn't like it, but you guys in the industry canceled them over that for saying, no, we didn't like it. You guys are constantly pushing the wrong narratives. This is why nobody likes you. This is why nobody takes you seriously. It says playing video games is becoming a very expensive hobby. And this is true, but this also has to do with greed, not just tariffs, not just, ooh, evil Trump is trying to kill our hobby. It has to do with the greed that is within the companies themselves. They've been looking for a reason to raise video game prices. Tariffs won't last forever. Or the Nintendos and the Microsofts and the Rockstar Take-Twos going to drop their games back down to 70 when the tariffs are over? No, they'll keep them at 80 or even 100 in some cases, because they have been itching for a reason to raise prices. Yes, they do take shots at President Trump in this, saying his idiotic tariffs, RAM and other PC parts are becoming more and more expensive. They talk about Valve and credit card companies deciding what games are allowed to exist. Now, I actually think that this is a good situation for them to call out, but do they go into it in depth? No. Interestingly enough, this is one of the smallest sections they have throughout this entire article. It's been 5 months since Steam and itch.io began purging certain NSFW games from their storefronts following pressure from payment processors like MasterCard. Despite an immediate backlash and ongoing calls not to let banks censor art, tons of games remain unavailable to purchase on the world's biggest PC gaming storefronts. The worst part of all is that it's still not even clear who the corporate partners are trying to appease with the crackdown. The message to potential censorship advocates is that if you make enough noise, controversy-averse companies will back down. Do they go into the discussion about these different groups that are trying to censor our entertainment? No. Do they go into Sweet Baby Inc. being a big reason behind this? No. Do they talk about collective shout in depth? No, most likely because they support the censorship in some capacity, which is just pathetic. There's so much that they could talk about here, but yet they give it two very small paragraphs because they didn't want controversy surrounding them for ignoring it, but at the same time, they're going to cause controversy for not going in depth on it. Regardless, they talk about the $55 billion Saudi/EA deal. They bring up Mind's Eye, and then President Trump's gaming posts and the lack of any pushback. The Trump administration turning fascist propaganda into the stuff of memes isn't terribly surprising, but it's disappointing that some of the biggest companies in video games just let him use their IP to do it. Microsoft and the Pokemon Company both saw their creations used in posts from the Trump administration trying to recruit nerds to join ICE, and while the Pokemon Company said it hadn't given permission for the use of its work, it stopped short of condemning the video post of ICE agents catching immigrants set to the iconic anime theme song from the 90s. Microsoft, meanwhile, didn't say a goddamn word, so they of course have to bring politics into it. They don't really care about making the video game industry better. They do not care about actually talking of the issues that are surrounding our favorite hobby. Right now, they simply care about pushing their politics and really making this entire situation about themselves and what bothers them personally. So yes, this is happening right now. Kotaku pushing their own propaganda, trying to say, ooh, it's the 10 biggest gaming disappointments of 2025, when really they just wanted to make it about how gamers are bad, how Trump is bad, and they don't want to go into detail about problems in this industry because either they don't know them or they are intentionally ignoring that they exist. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.